Ray Robinson, greatest fighter pound for pound. Have Sam Langford number 1, Harry Greb number 2, Sugar Ray Robinson number 3, Henry Armstrong number 4, Muhammad Ali number 5, Archie Moore number 6, Joe Louis number 7, Jack Johnson number 8. Collectively, I have Benny Leonard, Tony Canzaneri, and the Scotch Wop, Johnny Dundee, number 9. And number 10, I have the current champions in the Black Murderers Row. This is Scrapbook Boxing, and I want to discuss this conversation. This is part 2 of Ray Robinson, controversy with the Black Murderers Row. I want to discuss that right here with you and continue that conversation on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Now, Ray Robinson, I want to go over a few accolades with you. He was Fighter of the Year 1942 and 1951 by the Ring magazine. He was named Fighter of the Year for 1950 by the Boxers Writers Association of America. Named Fighter of the Decade 1950s in the Ring magazine. Introduced into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 1967. Introduced into the World Boxing Hall of Fame in 1981. He was introduced into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990. He was named Welterweight Fighter of the Century, Middleweight Fighter of the Century, and Fighter of the Century by the Associated Press in 1999. He was ranked by the Ring magazine as the 11th greatest puncher of all times. Ranked best fighter in the last 80 years in 2002. He was introduced into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame in 2006. The United States Postal Service honored Ray Robinson a stamp in 2006. Historian Bert Sugar ranked Ray Robinson number 1 in his 2006 book, The Greatest Fighters. ESPN ranked Ray Robinson as the greatest fighter in history in 2007. Ray Robinson was also introduced into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 1967. And at that time, that was a very proud moment for a young man in the inner city. And you see, Ray Robinson was a coach in the 1941 New York Golden Gloves. It was a team in the Inner City Golden Gloves tournament he held in Chicago. Robinson had 6 fights with Jake LaMotta. He won 5 and he lost 1. And the thing about LaMotta, he said, fighting Sugar Ray Robinson as many times as I did, I wonder I don't have diabetes. You see, Ray Robinson was an outstanding fighter. He won a vacant World Welterweight Championship in his 76th professional fight by defeating Tommy Bell in 15 rounds before relinquishing it into his fight because he wanted to become a middleweight champion. And he would defeat Robert Villamain in 15 rounds for unanimous decision for the vacant Pennsylvania World Middleweight Championship. Ray Robinson would lose the World Middleweight Championship to Randy Turpin. Randy Turpin was an outstanding Englishman. And Robinson lost in 15-round decision July 10th, 1951. He would regain it that year, and he would knock out Randy Turpin with beautiful combinations at the Polo Grounds. Randy Turpin was a fascinating fighter. Unfortunately, he would commit suicide not too long after that fight. Ruby Goldstein was the referee, and he would step in and say no more. He felt that Randy Turpin had taken a beating. Robinson would unsuccessfully challenge Joey Maxim for the World Light Heavyweight Championship June 25th, 1952. On March 29th, 1944, shortly before he was scheduled to set sail for Europe, Robinson disappeared in Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. He said he fell down the stairs and he wound up in Staten Island Hospital. Now, some don't understand that story and some do. Ray Robinson was in the war, and he made an excuse to get out of the war. And he stated that he got dizzy and he fell down the steps. Be that as it may, Ray Robinson would continue with his career. Now, in 1940, all the inner city champions and the amateurs turned professional. You had fighters such as Sugar Ray Robinson, Jimmy Bivens, Jake LaMotta, Ike Williams, Burt Littell, Ezzard Charles. You had a whole crop of fighters who turned professional in 1950. Excuse me, they turned professional in 1940. 1951 was a very strange year because all champions had lost their titles in 1951. The very same men that I just mentioned, outside of Jimmy Bivens, had lost their titles in 1951. Jake LaMotta lost his middleweight championship strap to Ray Robinson, 13 rounds, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1951. Sugar Ray Robinson would lose his middleweight championship belt to Randy Turpin in 1951 in England. He would regain it in 1951 at the Polo Grounds with a beautiful combination over Randy Turpin. You had Jimmy Carter knocking out Ike Williams in the 8th round and taking his lightweight championship belt. Ike Williams turned professional in 1940. Ezzard Charles would be knocked out in the 4th round with a beautiful left hook by Jersey Joe Walcott, and he would lose his crown in 1951. You see, 1951 was some year for these outstanding fighters who turned professional in 1940. And Ray Robinson was no different. He has a record of 17-7-1, 10 KOs and world title fights. 30-11-1 with 11 knockouts against former, current, and future world champions. He won against fighters such as Sammy Engat 3 times, Marty Server twice, Fritzy Zivik twice, Maxie Berger, Jake LaMotta 5 times, Izzy Janazzo 4 times, Henry Armstrong, Kid Gavilan twice, Bobo Olsen 4 times, Randy Turpin, Rocky Graziano, Gene Foreman, Carmen Basilio, Denny Moyer, Ralph Dupas. Now he lost against the fighters such as Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Joey Maxim, Gene Foreman twice, Carmen Basilio, Paul Pender twice, Denny Moyer, Terry Downs, Joey Giardello. Outstanding fighters they were. And he drew against Gene Foreman. Ray Robinson, one of the greatest fighters of all times. Now, unfortunately, for the Black Murderers Row, you have to understand Ray Robinson had to protect his #1 spot, both at welterweight and at middleweight. Now, yes, there's stories that Coco Kid, while sparring with Ray Robinson, dropped him twice or so. That is true. I've gotten first-hand information on that. There's also stories that Ray Robinson had cracked ribs when he was sparring Eddie Booker and Little Tiger Aaron Wade. Guess you had fighters such as Jack Chase and Herbert Coco Kid, Lewis Hardwood, Charlie Burley, Lloyd Marshall, and Holman Williams, and Burt Littell. I mean, you had fighters that were the cream of the crop. But the thing about it, Charlie Burley, there was a story that he went over to Sugar Ray Robinson's restaurant. And he asked Ray Robinson to come outside. And when Ray didn't come outside, he went in and threw a swing at him. Tried to slap him, and he was escorted outside. And I looked into that. Others heard it, and some didn't. But that doesn't seem to be Charlie Burley's character. You see, Ray Robinson wanted to become champion. You got to understand, he was ranked #1, 1942, as a welterweight. He turned professional in 1940. And within that time, he was in there. with men such as Fritzy Zivik, Henry Armstrong, O'Neal Bell, Izzy Genazzo, Holly Mims, California Jackie Wilson, Ozzie Bulldog Harris, Cecil Hudson, Robert Villamain, Jose Basora. I mean, that's just to name a few. And he fought champions such as Fritzy Zivik, Sammy Angard, and Paul Pender, and Terry Downs, and Joey Maxim, Rocky Graziano, Henry Armstrong, Joey Giardello, Gene Foreman several times, Marty Servo, Carmen Basilio, Randy Turpin, Carl Bobo Olsen, Kid Gavilan. I mean, Ray Robinson was something else. But in order for him to become champion, he had to play the political game. And when you take a look at Charlie Burley and Holman Williams, who was ranked number 1 and number 2 several times, number 1 and number 3 several times, while Tony Zale had the title frozen because of the war, these men would fight one another, picking each other off out of the rankings. And Ray Robinson saw that and said, that's not happening to me. When I'm number 1, I'm going to stay number 1. He knew the black murderers well. He understood that these men could have gave him work. Do I think Ray Robinson would have beat Charlie Burley? If they fought 5 times, I would give Ray Robinson 3 out of 5. Holman Williams, I would give him 4 out of 5. The only problem I believe that he really would have had a problem with was Coco Kid, because of the style. Burt Littell would have given Ray Robinson a lot of problems. But from what I see in Ray Robinson, in his prime, he was virtually unbeatable because of his passion and his heart and his chin and his combinations and his ability to adjust, his ability to move. Ray Robinson was incredible. And so was the Black Murderers Row. Thank you for hanging in there with me. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to Sugar Ray Robinson. Salute to the Black Murderers Row. All great fighters. All would have been champions if given an opportunity. I want to leave you with a couple of fighters that didn't give Ray Robinson a fair shot. 1940, Sefrino Garcia, world middleweight champion. He fought Henry Armstrong, and Henry Armstrong was robbed. They made their fight a draw. Referee George Blake called it a draw and flew out of the ring. Henry Armstrong was unjust in his fight with Sefrino Garcia, who he defeated 2 other times before. Billy Seuss. Now, Billy Seuss was champion 1941. Now, mind you, the Black Murderers Row was in full force, and they were avoided by these upcoming champions. Sully Krieger to your left, and Al Hastacker. Sully Krieger was champion in 1938, 1939. And what's amazing about him, he had an opportunity to give these fighters a shot. Al Hastacker, he was champion from 1938 to 1938. Tony Zale to your left was champion from 1941 to 1948. Rocky Graziano, champion in 1947. Tony Zale froze out the Black Murderers Row, although his titles were frozen during the course of the war. But he could have given these men a shot. They were ranked very high while he was champion. The only fighter that I would respectfully say gave these men opportunities, not while champion, but as a fighter, was the Bronx Bull, Jake LaMotta. He faced Holman Williams and others. But the greatest fight in middleweight championship history, outside of Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearns, was Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta. 1951, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. These men fought each other 6 times. Robinson won 5, and LaMotta won 1. Fantastic men, fantastic champions. When Robinson lost to LaMotta in 1943, he had defeated LaMotta in 1942. And 3 weeks later, Ray Robinson would defeat Jake LaMotta. Fascinating fighters, fascinating era. Salute to these great fighters. Thanks for watching part 2 of Ray Robinson and the Black Murderers Row. Salute.